I call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of Aransas Pass City Council, September 19, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. And let's all rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Mr. Gary?
Our Heavenly Father, once again, we thank you for the opportunity to serve you. We are here tonight to meet the challenges facing our community. Challenges that some are well known to us, others are new to us. We ask for your guidance. We ask for your direction and your wisdom. We ask all of these things in your name, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
I'll
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor, and for the record, Councilmember Abrego is available via conference phone.
Okay. Right now, we're going to go straight into citizen comments.
Jason, if you can hear us, go ahead. You have the floor at this point.
Okay. Anyway.
TML's Texas Municipal League. The Texas Municipal League is what our charter follows. Now, the Texas Municipal League said that that we follow the laws of the city or the state unless it involves unconstitutional grounds, so we wouldn't get the person that kind of thing. With that said, nepotism is written into our code book, and the city of Aransas Pass must follow that. As you, the mayor, we must follow the Constitution, not the Constitution, but we must follow that charter. This means Roxanne sent out an illegitimate cease and desist order to me with a constitutional pursuit or continual pursuit to get this council to obey the law and either remove John Goldman or remove the mayor from nepotism. Nepotism, again, is in our code book. TML says we must follow it. I do believe someone sent Carrie and Jason that data, so I hope somebody follows up on that. Roxanne, you have illegally blocked my First Amendment rights repeatedly, playing with my rights over and over again. The city's money, and it's like a game to you, and we don't understand it. The more you invoke your abuse of power, the more money it costs our citizens. Also, it's coming. You filed a case to receive a cease and desist this week from my lawyer. It'll come over your grounds for your criminal trespassing charge that you tried to throw at me. Now, we tried to get the evidence of your criminal trespassing charges several times by several different citizens. You wanted to charge us $800 the first time for it. Then you turned around and said, never mind, we can't have it. And your third time, you now tell us that we can have it, but we're gonna black out a bunch of it and not give us all the data because you don't want the citizens of our town to understand and know. What kind of communist council are you? You'll also claim that this is over a Facebook post. You idiots know that Facebook has a built-in software that will block the comments of the person that does threats, and repeated abuse will get the person blocked. I know for sure that all you clowns follow my Facebook posts. Guess who isn't blocked? Me. I'm still on Facebook. We the people would like to know what criminal charge you have on myself. Maybe it's about time you turn tail and run before you get down the road and bring us into debt, or you'll all wind up in jail. That's all I got.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I think someone else wants to comment.
Yes, we're going to continue with citizen comments. If there's anybody else in the audience that wants to do that at this time. Yes.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Amy Thurlkill from the Hibiscus Garden Club. We've been working on the Blue Star Memorial. Some of you are new faces, but some of you may remember it was voted on in 2018, I believe. It's been a while. And since then, had a few setbacks with Harvey and COVID, etc. But we're geared up, and I'm here to give you an update on where we're at. And it's going to be hopefully quick and painless. So the Blue Star Memorial Marker Dedication Ceremony is October 22nd, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. The location is at Con Brown Harbor at Harbor Point Park, located between the fish cleaning station and the covered picnic area. We do have some trifolds and some invitations for the different people here for the council. the chief of police, and the city manager. So we had, basically, I'm going to say 3 teams. We had the city team, the Hibiscus Garden team, and then the community team is how I'm kind of approaching this. So Gary Edwards, the city manager, has been very instrumental in pulling together and overseeing a great team of city employees and the Blue Star Memorial Project meetings. And we've been meeting continuously for a few times over the past several months. Jack McCarty represented the Harbor Authority, David Flores, the Public Works Director, and Kaylin Paxson, Director of Community Enrichment. That was basically the city team that we've been meeting with. The contributions, so of course Gary was our team leader, and Jack McCarty is handling logistics. We plan on having a U.S. Coast Guard search and rescue helicopter there to kind of do a static demonstration and just have a really good representation of the Coast Guard there, because we depend on them so heavily being so close to the coast. Also, we're going to hopefully be able to get a couple of temporary handicap places, because the permanent ones are way down at the end away, and we just don't want those folks to have to travel that far, so hopefully we'll get that done. That's on the list. David Flores has enlisted J.M. Davidson to provide the concrete work, and they're doing that pro bono. They're going to chip that in, so that was a great help. Let's see. Kaylin Paxson, she got us an interview with Roland Rodriguez. I don't know if any of you saw it, but we were on Facebook. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was on a time limit.
Would you share that date again one more time?
Yes, it's the 22nd of October,
Right.
10 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Anybody else with citizen comments?
I'm just going to make this real quick. I just want to remind y'all that it's been 544 days that we have been in NFIP violation, and y'all have done nothing about it. I also want to remind you that it has been 3 weeks that my lawyer has gotten a response from the city attorney or the city manager. I'd like for y'all to do something about both. And I just want to make sure, too, on further things that come up on the agenda, we will be able to have public comment on that, too, right? Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hector Rios, 1044 South Commercial. I just like to follow up on some of the things that we talked about in the budget, some of the monies that wanted to be used for like the carvings and things like that. We had a great example of what other good things that money could be used for today. We did have the bike-a-thon. You remember the bike-a-thon that came through today? Saturday? Probably about 2,000 to 3,000 cyclists. Well, over the Bay Bridge, when I was coming back from cleaning up at Lighthouse Lake Trails Park, there were dead animals in 3 big bags of nasty kitchen garbage on their bike trail. So all of our guests are potential tourists that were coming through there, and probably one of the most hazardous areas that you're going to cross as a bicyclist is over a bridge with traffic coming around. They were out there dodging dead animals and about 50 pounds of garbage. I know it was over 50 pounds because I went out there and cleaned it up. I pulled over, walked over the bridge, cleaned up all that debris, cleared out their bike trail so to be safe for them. And then plus, I didn't want them to think about our city that way. That looked very bad on us. That looked extremely bad on us. We had thousands of potential visitors, and we had them driving through garbage. And I don't know how, if nobody knew about this, or no public servant, went ahead and took the initiative, pulled over, and went up and cleaned it, but I did. Because I'm very proud of Aransas Pass. And I think that we really need to start cleaning up Aransas Pass. I think we need to do a serious effort in trying to change the image of Aransas Pass, and we'll start by cleaning it up. Clean it up. And let our citizens see the example that y'all are putting out there for them. use some of that money towards cleaning this town up, please. Y'all know that it's a problem. Our pathways, our getaways, even if we get somebody part-time or just use that money budgeted for a contractor to come in 2-3 times a week, something. Because I know it's not budgeted for David's department, all right? But we can do something, all right? Or how about volunteer? How about I'll get out there with y'all. Each one of y'all, let's pick a date. I'll be there. I'll guarantee you. Ms. Scruggs, Mr. Gomez, Ms. Moore, let's put the boots on the ground. I'll go out there with you every single time you want to go out there and clean up our highways, our entryways, our beautiful flats, that bridge. I'll be there for you. So y'all contact me at any time. I'll bring gloves, I'll bring bags, whatever you want me to do. I'll save my dump ticket so we can get rid of the trash at the end of it. Whatever y'all want, I'll help out. I'll be there. If anybody knows, I'm not afraid of any work. I'm a daddy, so I fear no work. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else? Okay, then we're going to go to board and commission appointments, which is on the Environmentally Sensitive Area Board.
I think the city secretary has this.
There are 3 terms that are expiring on the ESA board. The, terms are expiring for Mr. Oates, Mrs. Bowman, and Mr. Hyatt. We currently have 2 individuals that have submitted resumes, and that's Dennis Peacock and Ricky Kilgore. So at this time, since we only have 2 applications, we can fill the 2 regular slots and then just leave the alternate slot vacant until we get additional applications.
Okay. Well, then I make a motion that we approve Dennis Peacock and Ricky Kilgore to the ESA board for a 2-year term to September 1st, 2024.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, now we're gonna go to public hearings. We're gonna open up the public hearing on minor curfew ordinance. Public hearing to hear comments on whether the city should re-app on ordinance related to curfew for minors.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Keeping with statutory requirement, we have to bring this ordinance back to you every 3 years. It has to be reevaluated and I guess go up for public comment if need be, and your approval to keep the ordinance in place. I do believe that it is a necessary ordinance. It helps with enforcement and our ability to contact juveniles that may be up to no good during the late hours or out and about when they're not in school but should be in school, or be at home if not in school during the daytime. So I would like to see that this ordinance gets renewed. It is a useful tool. But we also try to focus, when it comes down to juveniles, on not necessarily criminalizing behavior necessarily and introducing juveniles into the justice system. That has proven time and time again with research that it doesn't necessarily work. So if you notice, the last time we renewed, we had quite a large amount of citations that had been introduced. This time we had about 20 citations over the last 3-year cycle that were handed out. And usually citations will be reserved for those who are known to law enforcement, are up to some other type of criminal behavior or something of that nature, or if there's no other plausible and workable remedy that can be resorted to typically, then we will use the enforcement arm of this ordinance. But I invite any questions or comments from the public or the council.
Any other comments? Okay, then I declare this public hearing closed. We're going to go to the city manager, which is consider an act on allowing staff to direct Samco Capital, the city financial advisor, to issue bids of a $2.160 million tax note.
Mayor and Council, this is an item that was discussed at length during the budgetary process. And this was one element of the budgetary process, and that is a way to address financially some of the capital improvement items. So with that said, Mark McCliney of Samco Capital is here to go into some detail, as much as you wish, on this particular issuance. Thank you very much.
I believe you all have the timetable in your agenda packets, but I'm going to quickly go over it also. It's good to be here. My name is Mark McLiney, and I'm with Samco Capital Markets. We've been the city's financial advisor for a long, long time. In fact, we go back to the very first bond issue you all ever did before my time. The item that we're discussing today is really just giving permission. We haven't done anything. We're looking for direction from the city council. But at budget time, you all approved projects totaling $2,160,000, some for the general fund, some for the utility fund. If you look at the second handout with all the numbers, the blue is what would be the proposed fund. Typically, the general fund pays for general fund items, utility fund pays for utility fund items. So we separate this. This has all of the city's debt obligations. You'll see on the far right, the tax notes will have 5 years worth of payments, 5.5 years, or 5 years, $67,000 in 2023, the upcoming year, 138, then 260,000, roughly speaking. We don't know what the interest rate is until you all give us permission to go out and we come back in your next month's meeting. So the general fund portion of the projects are funded over 5 years. The utility fund projects are funded over 7 years, and that's both because we want the useful life and the financing terms to match up with one another. The way it's structured, your current debt for the general fund is $1,825,000. This is total, $1,825,000 a year, and this will raise it to approximately $1,009,000 and will not go higher than that. You can see that on the far right-hand column. For the utility system, your current debt is $1,003,000, and we remain, roughly speaking, at $1,003,000. It actually goes to $1,009,000, and again, you can see that on the bottom box on the right. We have not done anything except work with Sandra at this point on structuring it, make sure it meets your needs. With tonight, we're asking for permission, if this makes sense to you all, to proceed and go out and bid these so that we can get interest rates and bring them to City Council at the meeting on October 17th. So that's a quick overview. If you all approve on October 17th, we will be bringing interest rates, final interest rates. If council approves those interest rates, it will be through a form of an ordinance selling the tax notes to the low bidder, and then funds would be in the bank, and you can see this on the timetable on November 9th. Which, again, working with Sandra, that meets the time schedule that she was looking for. So today, we don't like going out to bid with anything for the city without your all's permission. So even though you approved it in the budget, we'd like to get the second approval here so we can talk to banks and prospective bidders on your all's behalf. And that's the direction we're looking for this evening. Gary, is there anything else?
No.
I have a question. Interest rates, we lock in an interest rate now.
That's a great question. The Fed's raising rates, and over the last couple of months, they've raised them dramatically. We've hit the highest rates we've seen in 12 years. The 10-year Treasury bond's at 3.5%. The Fed is likely going to raise rates 75 basis points on Wednesday.
Right.
All of that is out of our control. We will have interest rates that will be fixed for you, meaning it won't change once City Council authorizes it. But bidders won't offer it today with the idea council's not going to approve it until October. So we can't get rates firm until the day of your meeting.
Say in 2 years, the interest rate drops significantly, can you restructure them? What can you do at that point?
Okay, again, that's a really good question. So In this instance, no. Now, we could put a call feature in, and you know, with your direction, we would. A call feature gives city council and the city the right to pay them off early in the event you could go out and borrow funds cheaper, just like refinancing your house.
Exactly.
It's exactly like that. In this instance, because an investor is looking to lock this up for 5 years, a city, when you borrow money, if we did a 20-year certificate of obligation, we would reserve that right out there at 9 years. That gives the investor, and we're not the investor, we're advising you all. That gives the investor, they know for 9 years these bonds cannot be taken from me. If all of a sudden we went to them and said, in 5 years, we're going to have that right to call, they're going to raise your interest rate because it's going to be taken from them in 5 years. So in this case, we could do a call feature, but instead of getting a 3.5% rate, we're going to get a 4% rate. And now I'm saying 3.5%, that's my estimate. But those investors are going to say, then it's going to be taken from me in 2 years, so I'm going to demand a premium, a higher interest rate. In 2 years, when you have that call, those bonds are no longer 7-year bonds, they're only 5-year bonds. So their savings to the city are not going to be dramatic. Now, what we do, and we've done this many times for the city, is we've refunded bonds when those call dates come up. And on the bonds that you see on the sheet across, if you look across the top, there is left to right, COs 2014. Those bonds will become callable in 23. We're going to look and see if there's an economic benefit in 23. The next one is 2015 COs, so they'll be callable in 2015. Refunding bond, REF, refunding bonds, that's what that means. We refunded those for savings already. So look across the top and you'll see another one in 2021 we did last year. So one of the jobs we do is just constantly look at those bonds to see if we can refinance. In something short, 5 to 7 years, it costs you more to put a call feature in than you gain in the ability of lower interest rates. That being said, that's a really good question, and those are things that we do look at and we visit with Sandra about at the time. There's times when those call features don't cost that much. And there's times that we get bidders that will give us a free call and give us the right to call them, but we want to make sure that they're not giving that in exchange for a higher interest rate for the next 2 years.
Okay. I appreciate that, thank you.
Mark, if you said this, I didn't hear it, but we're talking 5 years, we're talking 7 years. And,
Well-
but we start dropping off, is that correct?
Yes.
As far as current debt goes.
So 2 things on that. We are selling only one bond, and that's one thing, one tax note. But we separate them separately on your various funds because we don't want the utility fund paying for something else. In this instance, the equipment that we're getting for the general fund tends to have a shorter lifespan. So that portion is 5 years.
Right.
The utility fund stuff will be here and still working 7 years from now. So those are 7 years. The world will see it as one tax note. We collectively will see 2 separate schedules. Now, your general fund, and I think this is getting to both your questions, if you look at the far right-hand column on the general fund, you'll be at $1.9 million for 2 more years, 23 and 24, and then you have a drop-off. And a couple of years later, you have a drop-off again. So when we try to structure debt, we always want to see drop-offs every 2 or 3 years so that you as a city council can have a choice 2 or 3 years from now, and it may be a future city council. Do we have capital improvements here so that we can borrow money without raising revenues, or can we lower the tax rate because we don't have to keep the tax rate that high to cover that debt? So you'll see drop-offs as you go down. And that's also on the utility fund. Next year, 2023, you'll be $1.9 million. The following year drops to $950 and keeps dropping thereafter. And that's not for taxes, but that's for the utility system. It gives staff something to look at, say, okay, we know we have to make this improvement for the utility fund. If we can get through this year, we have a drop-off, or in 2 years. And we got try to restructure or structure debt, particularly new debt, when you have a drop-off. There are times when you don't have those options, you have to borrow when you need it, but there are times we say, perhaps we can wait 1 more year where we get a drop-off. Does that answer that? Yes. Again, a lot of these discussion points, I've had them with Gary, I've had them with Sandra, and I haven't had them with you. So we want to make sure that you all feel you have all the questions answered that you have before giving us permission to go out and bid these.
I guess I got a question for Sandra. What will this do to our total bonded indebtedness if this gets tacked on? Will it be like around 26, 27 million?
Do I? No, that, if you add those two columns, it's about 25, that's principal and interest.
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest it's, and I have that number, I don't have it with me.
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest it's 18 million total principal, and the rest will be interest.
Some of this is not owned by the city. Some of it you have, understand, is MDD, that the Municipal Development District is paying for. And this is a short-term tax note that we're gonna be paying the majority off of it in 5 years and part of it in 7 years. And most of the debt issuances that we've been, since I've been here, to be honest with you, every debt issuance that we've done has been a tax note that has either been paid off in 5 to 7 years. We have not issued any COs or anything like that that go beyond to like 20, 30-year notes.
The last long term was 2016.
2016, okay.
And we have done refunding bonds, but they were longer than 7 years, but they were not extending any debt. It was replacing debt with lower interest rates.
That was, I think, for the MDD.
Right. Yes.
How long will the police cars be financed for?
5 years.
5 years.
That's the useful life of the police vehicles, is 55. Everything that we discussed in our meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, I don't remember when it was, when we talked about it, it's gonna be all the vehicles, all the equipment, all of that is gonna be for 5 years. What's gonna be for 7 years is gonna be the money that we're gonna be needing to finish up the capital improvement projects for the water and sewer projects. Those are that's 900,000, those are gonna be financed for 7 years. Everything else is going to be, thank you, Kristen, everything else is going to be, scheduled to be paid off in 5 years. So we're looking at about 1.1 million, 1,182,000 to be paid off in 5 years and 900,000 to be paid off in 7 years.
Okay.
And that's how we structured it, so like Mark said, that it doesn't have an impact at the taxpayer at the rate. So we don't have to increase the tax rate. We're able to do this we decrease the rate and we're able to sustain that and sustain those payments. Anything else?
Oh, thank you, Sandra.
I make a motion to allow staff to direct Samco Capital, the city's financial advisor, to issue bids on a $2,160,000 tax note.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And,
Thank
and
you.
we'll have final interest rates, on October 17th, and there'll be an ordinance city council will approve if they want to proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're gonna go to consider and act a resolution appointing Gary Edwards, city manager to the Coastal Bend Council of Governments Board of Directors.
Mr. Mayor and Council, the reason this is on here is this relates directly to the issue I was talking with you about at the last council meeting, and that is that $5 million grant. The Council of Governments will be voting on that on Friday of this week, and need to have someone there to vote on it, and would become from that point on until you change it would remain in that position. But the more immediate requirement is the $5 million CDBG MIT grant. And it's actually over $5 million. And met with some people with COG, Council of Governments, last week. And there is more flexibility with that grant than what we were anticipating, which is a very good thing. It can be very infrastructure oriented, but still within certain guidelines. So anyway, being asked to represent the city at this meeting on Friday so we can vote it to move forward and get the money that's actually is ours. We don't have to compete for it. It's there, but we wanted to move forward to the next level of government.
Well, I'll make a motion that we appoint Gary Edwards, City Manager, to the Coastal Bend Council of Governments Board of Directors.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we're gonna go to consider an act on approving a resolution of the City Council to Aransas Pass, Texas, establishing that qualifying public events serve a public purpose and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation to temporarily close the state highways.
This resolution, Mayor and Council, allows an umbrella approach to future events, and the police chief may want to comment on this also, but it allows an umbrella approach to future events where a road, meaning a state highway, needs to be closed. This resolution was given to us by TxDOT as the umbrella overarching document that will cover the events that are being talked about right now with the Party Gras and also the Christmas event. And then beyond that also, anytime an event comes up, it makes it less cumbersome, less bureaucratic, and it can move more quickly. So that's the purpose in this. And Chief and City Secretary, I don't know if you have any comments on this?
Yeah, like I shared with you guys virtually last time, I think we need to be very cautious on how often we go out and we're shutting down a state highway. Years ago, I would be vehemently opposed in doing so just because of the frustration and aggravation that it caused motorists. But I do believe in promoting our community. I do believe that there has to be a healthy balance between that discomfort caused to motorists and promoting our community and the businesses and everything. I do support these events, and I think that we can make them successful from a city standpoint. But I will tell you, just as I cautioned, I've already got somebody else that's reaching out, wanting to do something very similar to close down the state highway again on another event. So I don't know what a healthy balance is there, but I would caution you to maybe consider some type of a healthy balance on how often we're going to be willing to disrupt state highway traffic as it relates. Most of the ones that we normally do, like Fall Feast and stuff that the church does, are on city streets, and they're not much of an inconvenience. But when you shut down a state highway, it's a substantial inconvenience, especially with whoever designed our state highway here in Aransas. These Y sections and all that are chaotic, and even our detour route map has been a struggle for some motorists that come in from out of town and find themselves caught up being blocked. So cautiously moving forward, I think we can continue to have great events, but I would hate that we're starting to do an event like this every week and shutting down a state highway for an event every week. That's only my comments. Y'all have that hard decision to make, not me.
Hector Rios, 1044 South Commercial. I actually agree with Mr. Blanchard. I think too many would kind of start being harmful, maybe, possibly. Maybe consider one for every season. A spring, a summer event, a winter event, something like that. And that way you can cap a number on, or just pick a number, cap it, and that's it. Yeah, but definitely has a point there. But on any other streets, then, though, yes, man, don't stop the parties, don't stop the festivals. We don't have enough festivals or anything to attract tourists to keep them going. Like I said, Port Aransas does not stop, Rockport does not stop, and their hotel occupational tax dollars show it. $6.6 million in Port A, $1 million in Rockport, and we're at 264. We need to stop that traffic. I mean, Did you ever see the Muppets when they say, Gonzo, get a cab? I want to go out there and throw myself out there and stop these tourists. Man, I want to do anything to stop them. In tents, bands, music, some kind of festival will at least stop them for a little bit. You know, and we need that. We need them to slow down. I'd really like to have something, when we got them long ferry lines, I'd like to have a little festival right there to the right before that last bridge going out there. There's our customers right there. I know if I was waiting in that ferry line, I could pull over, listen to some music, and go through a little flea market, maybe have a couple beers. That's where I'm going to wait for the ferry. But we need to try to do anything. We need to try to do things that's never been done before, because we're in that position to where what got us here is not going to get us there. And I don't like saying it, but I don't think here is very good, especially with our hotel occupational tax numbers showing it. More festivals, as many as we could possibly have, and some of them are going to fail, absolutely, absolutely. So what we do is we just get up together and we're going to figure out what went wrong and just make it better the next year, and the next year, and the next year. But yes, they're going to fail. I'm not afraid of failure. I'm a business owner. I failed at many businesses. Yes, but I'm still here. Now I have one of the most successful kayak businesses in the entire coastal bend, because we just worked on it, learned from my mistakes, and that's what we can do with these festivals in building up our tourism. And I appreciate your time.
Again, keep in mind, this doesn't set a number. This is simply for any events that may happen. It makes it less bureaucratic in the event you want to do something.
Would we ever consider just closing the streets for city, the major street just for city events, and then other, such as the church and stuff like that, side streets that, the city owns those streets? It would make it a little bit less cumbersome.
There are, I am told, I haven't been able to prove this or assert this yet, but I think Mary even did some research. There are other communities, as I am told, that do obstruct state right-of-ways. And I think, like Mr. Rios was saying, if we had some type of protocol on how the city was going to do that, it would best guard the city. And it's not a bad idea of, one a season or something like that, per se. I'm excited about the annual Christmas party. I think that they're onto something there. But I also am excited about Party Gras, because I saw just how successful that was for a first-time event. And I think going forward, it can only get better, kind of like Shrimpery. So it's hard to balance that. But I wouldn't say take state highways completely out of it unless it's a city event.
Okay.
But maybe creating like a limitation or something, like Mr. Rios pointed out, whatever the council's pleasure would be, or even if a group were to come together and kind of, balance that or discuss the balancing act of how they're going to regulate it.
And we're just talking about shutting down the state highway. Any other group that wants to come up, like Mia's group, that wants to make
Event.
and make an event, there's always other streets that we could consider off of.
That would not be a state highway,
Yeah.
exactly.
But, yeah, in the future,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
future. So, in this resolution, do we want to put a limit to it now, or is that not appropriate now?
I wouldn't-
Not
I
appropriate
think
now?
we need to
No,
discuss
we
that
can
in
come
a
back and do that at a
workshop.
later time.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Just giving it permission to go. check it
Okay.
out and See
Yep.
what's good for the city.
Okay. Well, I make a motion to approve a resolution of the City Council of Aransas Pass, Texas, establishing that qualifying public events serve a public purpose and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation to temporarily close the state highway.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, we're gonna go to, we got the monthly report, right?
We've got those
You
on the
should
computer.
you should have all these reports in written form. This
Yep.
is not the time for the verbals.
Okay, we're gonna go to Development Services, which is consider an act on the insurance of a request for proposal for the American Rescue Plan Project Package Number 2 for water and sewer services from West Highland Avenue to McCampbell Ditch, the alley between South McCampbell Street and Rive Street.
Mr. Mayor and Council, we're going to ask that this be tabled. We need to do some more work on this. So if you agree, if you could table this for now.
I'll make a motion that we table item 9-1, the request for the American Rescue Plan Project Package Number 2 for water and sewer services from Highland Avenue to McCampbell Ditch, the alley between South McCampbell Street and Rife Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna go to consider an act on ordinance abandon a .315 acre dedicated public roadway measuring 40 feet in width and 343 feet in length, being a part of farm lot number 2, land block 239 of the Burton and Danforth subdivision, recorded in volume 1, pages 62 and 63, map records of Aransas County, Texas, described as a 25-foot width of the roadway as part of property number 14864 and a 15-foot wide of the right-of-way, a part of the property number 14860 as declared by deed of roadway dedicated, defined by meets and bounds and plat of said closure, and provided for revision of said abandoned area to be abutting property owners, tabled 4/18/2022.
Yeah, so this case was before you on the 18th in April, and it was tabled because it came up that the adjacent property, that is Tom Fallow with his RV project, that roadway was leading to his property, and council wanted to know whether he had extra concerns with that closing portion of that street. He held on to that decision until now that he is confident that his project is going to go forward. So just last week, he gave us the information and confirmed that he will not need that roadway, and therefore, if it is closed, it will not affect his future development of his property. Therefore, we bring it to you at this time for you to act on it. Thank you.
Okay, I have two things. Number one, do we have that in writing from Mr. Furlow?
Yes, he sent an email.
Okay. And second of all, I believe it was the last one that wanted to get the roadway abandonment, and I said this acreage belongs to the city, and there should be a value to this, you know, to help another project in the city. There's so much to be done, and yet we're just giving our land away to people. And I know you said, oh, we'll get taxes on it. Well, that's fine, but we can't continue to give our city land away without a value, my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, the value of the putting a value on the roadway, probably for this one, $1 is money value, but we need to look at how much is the city going to get from that portion of the roadway, and how much will interest us. But I agree, other properties that we're going to close, if it is significant, we can put money value on it and figure out how best we can make money out of it.
I mean, it'll fix the light downtown, it'll do something, but we get something for the land that we're just giving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Averback.
I agree. Okay, come on.
I purchased
State your
property,
name.
the
State
property.
your name and address.
My name is Bill Averback. I'm at 315 West Guile. I bought this property, including the 25-foot by 340-foot strip from the city years ago.
Oh, you did buy it from the
Yes,
city?
it was a tax property that was a sheriff's sale, and I purchased it in 2000, I think it was 2016. The city council approved the price on it. The Aransas County approved the price, and the Aransas ISD approved the price. So we bought the real estate there.
I was not aware of that, I
Yeah.
apologize.
So I'm just trying to get it closed so I can clear my title, and I can build fence in my property, for instance, which I can't do right now because it's a dedicated roadway. even though, well, so, yeah, I already purchased the property
I
a
appreciate
long
that.
time ago.
There was one person that went against him, and I can't remember who that was.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
In favor of the motion?
I move to act on ordinance abandoning a 0.315 acre dedicated public roadway measuring 40 feet in width and 343 feet in length, being a part of Farm Lot Number 2, Land Block 239 of Burton and Danforth subdivision, recorded in Volume 1, pages 62 and 63, map records of Aransas County, Texas, described as a 25-foot width of the roadway as part of property number 14864, and a 15-foot width of roadway as part of the property number 14860, as declared by deed of roadway declaration defined by meets and bounds and plat of said closure, and providing for reversion of said abandoned area to the abutting property owners.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna go to public safety, which is considering act on approving the chief of police to sign the addendum to task force agreement pertaining to body worn cameras with the Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So, as you know, we've been using body cameras in the department since about 2012. We were very early adopters on the program and project. The guys that we have assigned to the DEA task force have also been wanting to use theirs or been using theirs, but the higher up you go in bureaucracy, the more sticky it gets. So now all of a sudden they've come at us and they want us to sign this agreement that you all have that kind of sets some boundaries and rules about how the federal government will take precedence over how that video is handled over local government as it pertains to the TFOs and the video recorded by the TFOs, which task force officer. So we're just asking for your approval so that I can assign this or sign this agreement, and the TFOs can be restored to using their body cam footage. I will tell you, I had a long conversation with one of them, and he just doesn't feel protected in this age without having that body cam footage recording. And I completely understand his position. So the sooner we can get this signed and agreed to, the better it is for both of them.
And this goes into effect immediately once we...
Immediately once we sign and their part is signed on their end as well. And it goes on record with Mary once it's executed.
I make a motion to allow the chief of police to sign the addendum to task force agreements pertaining to body worn cameras, agreements with the DEA.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna go to consider an act on approving the commitment for the city of Aransas Pass to participate in the San Patricio County Hazardous Mitigation Action Plan renewal process.
This one's new to me, council. Let me look at this one here. I think this might have been a pass-through for one of my staffers. Yeah, I would ask that we bring this one back, if we can table this to the next meeting, and I'll get you the staffer who put this before me. It's actually Lynn, but he did have a procedure that came up late today and had to leave work early.
I'll make a motion that we table 12 to consider an act on approving the commitment for the city of Aransas Pass to participate in the San Patricio County Hazard Mitigation Action Plan renewal process.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna consider an act on issuance of a request for proposal for the animal control facilities remodel phase 3.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I actually have the captain in charge of animal control here, Captain Jones, but basically to start them off, we've already done 2 remodels of our animal control facility, and this third remodel was approved by the crime board, budgeted by the crime board, and approved ultimately by you, Council. And I have Captain Jones here, who would like to go out for RFPs on that Phase 3 of the remodel, and he can take any questions or comments that come from the council or the audience.
So, our two previous phases, we were also funded by the Crime Control Prevention District. We went out and we took care of the exterior kennels. We redid the fencing material and everything on them. The facility was built back in 2006 and it's just degraded over time. So that was replaced, and we did a bunch of work to our interior quarantine kennels. And then we did some building. We did a lean-to awning, took care of roof damage and siding damage that was still a result from Harvey. So all that's been done. What we're looking to do on this this third phase is redoing the flooring with a, let me get the proper term here. Basically, it's like a made by a company called Pintech. Basically, it's like a
Epoxy?
Yeah, epoxy. There you go. That's the word I was trying to think of. It's a commercial grade epoxy flooring that they're saying is going to come with a lifetime warranty, even with the animals being on it constantly. Of course, that's a rough environment. Painting the walls with a elastomeric paint, which will basically make the cleanup process easier. The problem is the walls are all cinder block walls, so they have those little divots and everything in them, and it makes it really difficult for them to scrub and clean. So this is going to make it much easier where they can clean the facility, and the old paint that's on there is chipping off, and it's in rough
Seal the
shape.
walls and the floors. It's easier with
Sorry?
that to seal the walls and the floors and get
Yeah.
everything cleaned up.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah, the walls will be easy to clean. The floors will now be easy to clean. We'll be looking to redo the kennel material on the inside of the building for the 11 general population kennels. That's the only thing that hasn't been replaced as far as the kenneling and the fencing. The plumbing in the facility is completely outdated. Rather than spending the money to redo it, we're going a different option as far as our water and feed for the animals that will actually be built into the doors. So we're going to be capping off the plumbing that's going to the kennels. We kept having to replace the bowls time and time again, and they would tear the water lines, and it was just a hassle. So we're just going to block all that off. They're going to go with what they're doing right now in a way is manually feeding and watering. So they'll be blocking those holes off before they do the painting. And then there are 11 guillotine doors which separate the inside to the outside portion of the kennels. It's a twofold purpose. So the inside and the outside, if we absolutely have to, we can separate those and turn that into two different kennels. We try to never get to that point in our facility, but it is an option if we ever do get to that point where we have to use it. But mainly it's so at night we can close the animals inside, then during the day we can let them run in and out. So that's what we're looking at for Phase 3.
And Mayor and Council, if I may, one of the things that Jones and our animal people did point out to me, he said in 2006 it was built, right? When it was was basically built as like a kill shelter is kind of the terms they use for it. And if you all reflect back when Sylvia was city boss here, those type of things didn't work very well. Not only that, but when I was charged with taking over animal control, we totally went against that. We'll do everything we can to try to rehome the animals that we collect and pick up, and this shelter is just not built for that. We're having to improvise. In the future, it would be much nicer if we could, sometime down the road, I know there's many needs of the city, but we're gonna need a new facility at some point or another. So we do have our grant writer kind of looking at some of those options as well, if we can find alternate ways to maybe improve upon that. But that is the mission going forward. We are a shelter, basically. We're not a kill shelter as much as we can avoid that practice.
And really what our goal is, in the future, hopefully we can go the grant route, but we would like an additional facility to add on. But our goals with, we went back and forth for a good while discussing, like, are we going to put the money into this facility? And our thought is this is still an excellent facility. It just needs the upkeep. And then whatever we do beyond that will be in addition to it, but we would still be using this facility.
I make a motion to approve city staff to go out for bids on obtaining proposals for Phase 3 of the animal control facility remodel.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
To consider an act and award the agreement for the fire station facility feasibility study of two Martinez Architects for the amount not to exceed $9,000.
Mayor, Council, yeah, this is a study we've been needing for a while. I think the animal shelter is bigger than the fire station. So, yeah, this is, we finally got somebody to come look at it. You know, it's very preliminary. All they're gonna do is look at the condition of the fire station and the spacing in relation to how many firefighters we got in there. Very preliminary, and once we get that report, we'll go from there to see what you guys want to do after that. So,
I want to point out that this study started out 4 times more expensive than what you see now, and thanks to the fire department and Mr. Borrego, it has come down dramatically and it's a study that can be very useful. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Borrego.
I make a
We'd
motion.
be glad to add him some kennels that he can house firefighters in.
There you go.
If we already know the facility's too small, why are we spending $9,000 to go? Hector Rios, 1044 South Commercial. If we already know everything's too small, why are we spending $9,000 to have somebody come and tell us it's too small? That's your problem, correct? That it's too small, you don't have,
Well,
Direct
if we already
the
know
questions
that
over
it's,
here.
I'm sorry, sir?
Direct the questions over here.
Okay, there you go then. Why are we spending $9,000 on a survey when we already know that the firehouse is too small?
Would the
What's that
survey-
gonna really achieve?
Would this survey not give us other options on maybe going up, on how to restructure?
There's that, and there's the critical issue of where should it go for
Right.
the safety of the public? And should it stay there, or should it be in another location where growth is occurring? That's one of many questions that will be asked by this study. And the critical one, always the overriding issue, is public safety, and the location is a big part of that also.
And it's to be able to make sure that we make the right choices to where it needs to be at, or what needs to be done with it to be able to accommodate the fire department that we have, pretty much.
Well, I think we have enough good personnel that we could probably figure that out in-house,
So
but,
we'll find
you know.
out with this one right here.
Yep.
We also
Thank you
have
for your
federal
time.
requirements for
I
gender
seem to
that
disagree
we
with
have
that
to
one,
meet
so
also. We have no female capability right now. We need to know what we have to have by federal law. So that's another issue that'll be looked at.
I think this is the best way to do it.
And
Well, it just covers our butts.
any questions? That's it.
David, the council?
I make a motion to, on a request from the Aransas Pass Fire Department to approve the attached proposal for fire station feasibility study, not to exceed, was it $9,000 or $10,000?
Nine.
$9,000.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, now we're gonna go into executive session, section 551.071 of the Texas Open Meeting Act, to meet with his attorney to seek legal advice on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the city council under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meeting Act related to Microcore Technologies Incorporated, and section 551.072 deliberation regarding real property related to Harbor Community Plan. And it is 6:29. We're going to reconvene in open session to consider and act on any item discussed in executive session.
No action taken, and I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Did I say it right, Mary?